Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Better Basics Podcast, the realest fitness podcast on the planet. Dylan, it is great to see you as always, my friend. I normally have a nice chunk of time before, when my workday ends, before, I come in to record here. Today I was a little rushed. I had my son Archer, I had his first basketball practice today, and I'm his coach. So,
oh, coach, man, you
so
got yourself a multi-sport athlete. What was it? A funnel cake eating competition. He does boxcar racing. He plays soccer.
hmm
He's adding
pie eating.
Pie eating.
But
He
yeah,
wanted a funnel cake. That's right.
yeah. Right after he finished the pie eating contest, he asked if he could get a funnel cake.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, he likes to do it all, man. And it's funny. We played a lot of basketball together, and this is it's third and fourth graders. So and it's their first time playing competitive basketball, and it took every fiber of my being to not just to shake some of these kids with just some of the absolute bonehead plays that I saw out there, and then I remembered I'm their coach and I have to teach them where they're supposed to be and why they're supposed to be there, but it's going to be a long road, let me tell you that much.
Yeah. It's got to be like a weird. You got to be real proud and excited for your kid, but if I were to come watch your kid's third and fourth grade basketball game, I would have the worst time of my life.
You would hate it. You would absolutely hate it. It would drive you insane.
Yeah.
But it's just like and it's funny because it's the little things. I was never really all that talented at basketball, but the one thing that I had going for me besides effort was I knew where to be at all times, and these kids have they only have stepped on a basketball court during gym class before, and so the idea of I realized we did a little scrimmage at the end, and they checked the ball up at half court, and immediately all of the kids on defense started running towards the kid with the ball, and I realized in our first practice we didn't cover the concept of man-to-man defense. I forgot I had to teach them that.
I remember playing. It was 3-on-3 when I was in third, fourth grade. We played at Mike Hegan's.
Oh yeah, I played there too.
Yeah, we were the Lakers, and Brian Weber was our coach, best coach I ever had. And I remember it being very fun and feeling like I was very good at it. But I can imagine it's a lot of air balls and disorganization.
See, but the nice thing about that one, with 3-on-3, it was a small court. So it wasn't, it was a lot easier, like everything was still felt kind of fast paced, where now you have a bunch of kids running up and down a full size basketball court.
That's
I think
too
that
much.
actually is probably the answer. 3-on-3. I think they had something
3-on-3
smart going
court.
on over there. Yeah,
3-on-3
exactly.
smaller court. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Kids get to touch the ball a little more. Yeah, that's cool. Good
Yeah.
for him.
So I mean, I'll be sure to send you the game schedule and see if you might be able to make it up for one.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I think I'm busy.
Yeah, for sure. What's going on with you, man?
So before we hopped on here, I was scrolling through Twitter and came upon something that I wanted to share and discuss, but I wonder if it might be worth me monopolizing the hot topic today to talk about it.
Oh, well, that's fine. I mean, we can table what we got here for another time. What's going on?
So I'm scrolling through Twitter, and I think the hot topic I want to discuss. This is totally cold to you, so you can reflect on it some too. But is how fucked we are as it relates to how we interact with information in the world today.
Okay.
And how prevalent misinformation is everywhere. So I was scrolling through Twitter, and today on the Pat McAfee show, Aaron Rodgers was on.
Great.
And he stated a statistic about Jared Goff. Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions last night in Monday Night Football, and the Lions still won the game. So Aaron Rodgers recites this stat that he read, which is that Jared Goff has thrown 4 or more interceptions 7 times in his career and won all 7 games. And Aaron Rodgers kind of alludes to the fact that he doesn't know if it's true or not, but McAfee and AJ Hawk and his boys all immediately state, yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. And then Aaron Rodgers sort of reflects on how crazy it is. And this guy retweets it on Twitter and says, if you've ever wondered how easy it is to spread fake information, I made this stat up while laying in bed at halftime of the game.
He made it up.
Some random dude was just laying in bed watching the game, put it out there. It got picked up, and now it's being pushed on what is probably the most popular sports show that exists now.
Yeah, one of for sure.
And I'm just sitting here reading this thinking to myself, we are fucking toast, man. Like it's prevalent in everything everywhere. It's hard to know what's true. And
Yeah.
I think it's
Well, wait a minute,
especially
but hold
prevalent
on.
in the health and fitness arena as well. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
for sure. I like all the implications. There's a lot of ways that we can, discuss this. But just as far as like football statistics are concerned, this is a Hall of Fame quarterback that is and a guy that's played against Jared Goff a number of times. The statistic was that he had thrown 4 interceptions. How many other times? And won all the
4 or more interceptions 7 times in his career, and
No.
was 7-0. Yeah.
That's the dumbest. That's the fakest statistic that it could possibly have been. And I love that it was a guy. Was the person who shared it? Are they like a parody account, or is
No,
it just
I think
just
it's
some guy?
Yeah, it's just some guy. He's like
Yeah.
I guess his Twitter profile is Civ, Master Civ, and his profile bio is teach people how to have more fun playing Madden and college football 25.
Perfect. Well, that guy sounds like he's got an awesome gig going. And I like his brain that he was just sitting there and just decided to throw out a ridiculous statistic, having no idea that our most gullible NFL quarterback was going to pick it up. That's insane. And it is, and it's one of those things like I think this sometimes, because we're in this information age where you have access to information instantly all the time, and yet it feels like we don't have any information because you can find, you have to wade through so much BS to find the truth in so many things. And, certainly something like this would have been a pretty easy fact check. They wouldn't have taken long for Aaron Rodgers, Pat McAfee, AJ Hawk, anybody in that production booth to, quickly Google it and figure out that wasn't true. But, when we think about all of the other, realistically, like more important, conversations that are being had on a day-to-day basis. And when you go online and the truth is, hard, if not actually impossible to find, because you can find, quote unquote truth on either side, whatever point you're trying to argue. It does make, it makes it really hard to figure out what's real and what's not. And that, that is, it really is scary.
Yeah, the latter point is really scary to me. Like, you're right, sports is a safe space. Like the implications of misinformation in sports statistics is essentially zero. Like it's not going to have
I'm for
any.
that. There should be more misinformation in sports statistics. That's fun.
Yeah, that's just fun. It's funny, right? But like with things that actually matter, whether it's politics, health and fitness, um, I think the challenge is that those things are so divided and we're so stuck in our camps that the information we believe is the information we seek. There's like this inherent confirmation bias that exists now where people go to the places where there's a bias towards the information they want and they accept it as true because it aligns with their identity or who they think they are or should be. And that's really scary. So I think I make the point, and just to tie it back to health and fitness, like this is so prevalent in health and fitness. There are so many unqualified experts out there making these points that people identify with, and then in turn, align their lives to, and then further communicate themselves. And it's just so easy to be an armchair expert and have an opinion these days. And I think it was a motivating factor for why we're doing this, right? Like we're not claiming to be experts of any kind, but we are good at and able to navigate through the information and the misinformation and distill it into something that is really more about curiosity than expertise. And I think that's the take home. Like that's where people need to live more, whether it's health and fitness, politics, whatever it is. Get off your fucking high horse. Stop being so sure about everything. Be a little bit more curious. Accept the fact that a lot of what you're seeing is probably supported by some of an agenda. And I think the world becomes a better place. I really do.
Yeah, I mean that's such a good point. I was actually talking to Matea earlier this evening about how we're both trying to intentionally follow more people on social media that we just naturally don't agree with. Keeping people, because I think a lot of times we curate our feeds to just have it, like that confirmation bias, like you said earlier, where you just end up, you believe everything and you feel so entrenched in these beliefs because the only thing that you're hearing is people that agree with you, people that have similar values and people that have, similar lifestyles or, that come from a similar perspective as you. And, with all of this vast information that we have at our fingertips now, I think it's really important to expose yourself to opinions that make you uncomfortable, to perspectives that you might not naturally agree with. And what that will, at the very least, do is it'll make you think for a minute before you just, hop on a giant national program and recite a fact that, like, if you just had any sort of rational thought, you would know that there's no way that it could possibly be true. It's just it's so I think that that's one way that we can, maybe, just start to move away from those confirmation biases where, we have to expose ourselves to more opinions than just those that we naturally agree with. And it's challenging because, it can trigger you a little bit, or, it can just, it can be a challenging experience. But all in all, I mean, that's how we grow, and it's how we keep ourselves honest. It is the biggest thing, because you're right. I mean, you can be full of shit, and if you don't have anybody to call you out on it, then you'll never know. You'll never know, and you'll never grow.
Yeah, it's a good idea. And in doing it, you have to be really intentional on separating opinions from facts. And I think there's this really dangerous thing that's occurring as well in all these spaces where there's this like effort and ambition to discredit expertise. So like there still are experts. Like
Right.
people are, but you'll have somebody that'll anecdotally point out that a doctor was misinforming a patient, or a certain book was written with some sort of agenda, and they'll use that to discredit the whole of expertise. And I think that's super dangerous as well, because what it does is it opens up this void for opinion to be registered as fact. And that's how we get into this cycle of like these things where we do still have to respect expertise to some degree. We can question it. We should be curious about it. We should look into it further. But the credential still matters to some degree, I think. And I think we've kind of blanketly grown so cautious and sort of pessimistic to the idea that these experts have some sort of agenda that's misinforming us, that we're sort of throwing the baby out with the bathwater a lot of the time.
Where it's almost gone the other way now, where now
Right.
you're like, oh, you're an expert in this. Okay, buddy.
Right.
Where you almost you believe them less because they're certified in X, Y, or Z.
Right.
Instead, and then the guy who has a podcast and a really active Twitter account, that's the guy that has all the answers.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. If you want to go down a real rabbit hole in this, look into dead internet theory.
Oh, yeah.
It's terrifying to sort of think about how AI and this deep fake stuff could really essentially make the internet obsolete to some degree, because it'll be almost impossible to know what's real and what's not. So, man, we need more curious adventurers in this world to accept the fact that you're not always right about everything. You don't have to be so sure all the time. And learning and growth after, I think there's like a statistic that after, I don't remember if it's 29 or 30, it might be 39. I think like 39 years old, some behavioral scientists came to the conclusion that that's when we stop like learning, like we stop being flexible enough to form new opinions. And now I'm talking about misinformation and probably misquoting that study, but there is an age at which some behavioral scientists have concluded that we're like, our brains turn to stone. Like that's it. That's that we've decided we've got it figured out.
But that's one of those things, just like exercise, we know that that's reversible. Like the reason is because we stop seeking. It's not, I wouldn't imagine it's because, we're incapable of it. I would assume it's because people stop seeking that, those new opinions. They stop, and whether it be something like trying to learn new skills, like a new language or an instrument or, a sport, our brains and bodies can continue to be malleable, for a long ass time if we force them to. But a lot of times we just get comfortable in our patterns and then you're right, like those things tend to calcify. So, that's really interesting.
I also think I figured out how to solve U.S. elections.
Oh, all right. This is huge.
Yeah, I figured it out. It should be a blind taste test. We should be able
Explain.
to assess and review the policy proposals, everything that's being suggested as a component of each person's agenda, independent of everything else. Get the commercial off my TV, get the face off my TV, all of it. Like I want to just look at the facts on both sides, or even just the agendas, and then be able to deduce myself whether or not what they're presenting is feasible or reasonable. Man, that would be so fucking interesting to see if
Take the people out of it.
Take the people out of it. Yeah, I want a blind taste test.
No, I love that. There's something there. We've got a couple years to get that going. So we'll keep working on that. In the meantime, let's transition. That was a great hot topic, Dylan. Thank you for bringing that to the table. That was great.
I literally saw it a minute before I hopped on here. So
fantastic. Yeah, we need more. And what I liked about it, I liked the curiosity. I liked we just kind of got to go off there into kind of uncharted territory. So that was fun. All right, let's bring it back to reality here with Worth It. Dylan, you've got a Worth It for us this week, something that I am really genuinely curious to hear you talk about. I was just having a conversation this week about whether or not I needed one of these in my house. So I'm legitimately excited to hear your review on it. It's the Ninja Creami.
It's the Ninja Creami. Spoiler alert, you should get one.
Okay, got it. All right.
So the Ninja Creami, for those who aren't familiar, I guess they were like really popular, like just post COVID. They were like sweeping the TikTok world, but I'm not on TikTok, so I missed it. But I did come across it. My wife loves ice cream, so I got her one for her birthday last year. It's like a blender that makes ice cream. I don't know how else to describe it. You essentially freeze liquid, and then once it's frozen, you put it into this Ninja Creami machine. Has a blade in it that works to turn it into ice cream, or frozen yogurt, or gelato, or Italian ice. It does fucking everything, dude. It's crazy. They cost like somewhere between 150 and $200, so it's not a cheap investment. But what's really cool from a health and fitness perspective is you can use these things to turn protein shakes into like decadent ice cream. It is wild. So you can use, protein powders, and you can use lower calorie or milk substitutes, and essentially create what tastes exactly like ice cream, except it's low calorie and high protein. So I've used it in that way a lot. I've also just made some delicious ice cream in it as well. But it's really cool. So you can do, and it's neat because you can throw in, like, I'll make a peanut butter one, and then I'll put like Reese's peanut butter cups in it. So you'll run the ice cream cycle, and then you'll put your mix-ins in, and then you run another cycle, and I'll mix it all in there. It is just really a remarkable innovation in homemade ice cream. So I'm a
Have
huge
you
fan of it.
used like a regular ice cream maker before, like a homemade ice cream maker before?
I haven't.
We had one. We had one. We bought one, and then after our first use, so these ice cream makers, and I want to kind of know a little bit more about the Ninja Creami, because it comes with like this basin that you have to put in the freezer, and then you put the content, you pull it out, and you put everything in there, and then put it in the machine, and it like whips it all together. And because the basin is cold, like ice cold, it freezes the milk or whatever whatever you got in there. So I would assume the Ninja Creami works similarly to that, where there's a component that you put in the freezer.
Yeah, the only downside to the Creamy is you have to plan ahead.
Well, that's
So
the
you,
ice cream maker too. I mean, same
okay.
thing.
So yeah, you essentially have like a tub, a big cup, a tub. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah,
You fill
basin. That's
that
what I said.
basin, that vessel with liquid. You stick it in the freezer overnight, and then it's ready to rock. You put it into the machine, and it turns it into ice
Oh,
cream.
you put it in there. You put the stuff in there already. Like whatever you
Yeah.
want to make, you put it.
Yep.
Okay, so that's where it differs from an ice cream maker, because that one you just get the thing cold, and then
No.
you pull it out and put the stuff in.
No,
Got
this
it.
is like a 12-hour plus process. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
easy if you do it the day before. So you put the liquid in, the liquid freezes solid, and then you put it in the creamy machine, and it
And
turns
then it
that
makes it in ice cream.
frozen. Yeah. You can take like lemonade and just pour lemonade in there, freeze it overnight, stick it in there, and it
Oh,
turns it
Italian
into
ice.
the best Italian ice ever. It's
I
just
love Italian ice.
it's so easy and really delicious. So
Quick
I'm a huge
aside,
fan
were
of it.
you did you come to the Brewers game with us post prom? The day after prom, we were super hungover, and we decided to go watch a Brewers game.
I don't remember.
I don't remember if you were there either, that was the day that my love for Italian ice started, because it was probably like the first time that like the most hungover that I had been like to date at that point. And we were sitting in Miller Park, just absolutely just baking. And the Italian shave ice guy came around, and I got some lemon shave ice, and that thing saved
The
my
best.
life. And it absolutely, has started a romance that day that I've never gotten over.
Yeah.
So
If you
yeah.
want to have that experience over and over again in the comfort of your home, go get yourself a Ninja Creamy. They're not inexpensive, but
Well, Black Friday is coming up though.
yeah, maybe they go on sale. Keep an eye out.
Maybe check it out. All right. So Ninja Creamy, we're giving it the
Worth it.
Worth it. Perfect. All right, let's transition to the main course of the podcast today. This is something that is especially close to, I mean, both of our hearts. It's all about staying active as a parent and how that sets the stage for a healthier future for our kids. So, obviously, as parents, we want the best for our kids, right? And being a positive role model with fitness and wellness is one of the most powerful ways that you can, give them that. So whether you're a seasoned athlete or, someone who's looking to get more active, whether you're a current parent or somebody that maybe, hopes to be a parent somewhere down the line, this episode is going to be all about the simple steps that you can take to set your kids up for a happier and healthier life. And then, Dylan, I think you've got some just some stats that that you can share with us right away that pretty much just back up this fact that in order for our kids to be active, it's a hell of a lot easier if the parents are active too.
Yeah, and I'll share them. I would say it's probably worth extending parent or prospective parent to if you're an adult and you know kids or you're ever around kids. Like
That's
this
a
can
good
be
point.
important for you because we kind of have a kid crisis right now, and kids need more and better adults in their lives, whether they're your kids or other people's kids. Setting a good example for them is important. Kids are, on the whole, I'm talking in major generalities here, so these are macro level statistics, but they're more depressed than ever, and they're more overweight than ever before. So, and a lot of it has to do with activity. So there are U.S. physical activity guidelines for Americans, and the recommendation is that children and adolescents get at least 60 minutes of physical activity per day. So that probably sounds like a fair amount, but we're just talking really any type of activity, whether it's playing, running around, walking, whatever it is, that they're physically active for an hour a day. And there have been a number of studies sort of looking at the trends in adolescent activity. The most recent of which was looking at global trends and looking at whether or not their physical activity was sufficient or not. And it showed that there is some urgent action needed to increase physical activity levels in girls and boys, especially when we get into like that 11 to 17 sort of period of time. And this study was published in the Lancet Child and Adolescent Health Journal. It was supported by the World Health Organization, and it found that more than 80% of school-going adolescents globally did not meet the current recommendations of at least 1 hour of physical activity per day. So that's crazy. Like 4 out of 5 kids are not getting what health experts have determined to be the appropriate amount of physical activity in a given day. And do you want to comment on that?
No, I mean, no. But my comment is that's wild. It's just it seems ridiculous.
It's totally crazy, and it's having major impacts on kids. Most importantly, in my opinion, their mental health. So
Totally.
some statistics in that arena. Between 2016 and 2020, the number of children ages 3 to 17 diagnosed with depression in that 4-year period of time increased by 27%. And then in 2021, the National Survey on Drug Use and Health found that 20% of adolescents aged 12 to 17 reported having major depressive disorder in the past year. And I think a lot of this does have to do with the fact that they're not getting enough activity. Now, there's likely a confounding variable in here, which is the toll and impact that COVID and COVID restrictions had on children. No matter how you feel about how COVID impacted the world or was handled, it certainly had a disproportionate impact on kids.
Yeah.
Having
Well,
masks
and
on, not being able to see people's faces, being stuck in your house all the time, probably is contributing to these depression statistics as well. But I do think there's a major component of it, which is kids just aren't playing enough. They're not moving enough. They're not getting enough physical activity.
Well, I mean, what was one of the things that was taken away from kids during COVID? It was their ability to go and play with other kids. And if
Yeah.
you want to look at the cheapest, easiest way for, to get a kid that 60 minutes of physical activity a day, I mean, getting them outside playing with other kids is without a doubt the simplest way to do that. So we've broken up this conversation into four different segments here. The first one is all about why being an active adult matters for kids. And I mean, I think the simplest place to start is because kids mimic what they see. If a parent, it's the age old adage, do what I say, not what I do. But kids always end up doing what you do and
Hmm.
not what you say. Kids they naturally just pick up on the things that their parents are doing. Whether it is the way that they talk, the way that they treat people, the way that they interact with the world. Kids are sponges, and if you have a healthy lifestyle, it's a hell of a lot easier for your kid to just follow suit.
Yeah, they're mimics, and also, through childhood into adolescence, they also just kind of have to do what the parent does, right? Like
Yeah.
they're as it relates to the activity that they're doing. Like they spend their time with their parents.
Hmm.
So they're going to be doing and replicating whatever it is that you're doing and having them do. So it's really important from that perspective. But yeah, I mean, whatever they see and sense to be normal behavior is what they're going to do as well. So as a parent, it's important that you prioritize it. Kids with at least one active parent are 2 to 3 times more likely to be active themselves. So I think that in and of itself highlights it. There was some research from the National Institutes of Health that showed that family-based physical activity was able to improve children's physical activity levels by up to 40%. So if the parents are doing it, the kids are doing it too. You have to set that example. You have to put them in situations to have opportunities to be active. And if the things that you're doing are sitting around and watching TV, that's what the kids are going to do too. And that's not only what they're going to do while you're doing it with them, but it's the behavior they're going to model throughout their life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's wild. I mean, and you just think about you're taking kids at such a time of of the most change that we go through in our entire lives, and we think about how I like to think about how we can just set them up for for success. Just thinking about the potential to have stronger muscles, bone density, cardiovascular health. It's more than just having a kid that's going to be athletic or good at sports. We've talked on this podcast time and time again about the benefits of having muscle on your body, the bone density benefits that come along with it, all of the longevity factors that come from having good cardiovascular health. And by instilling those principles in kids, it just sets them up for success, in life moving forward. It's so much easier to learn these skills as a child than it is to get it back, when you're an adult, if you've never had it.
Yeah, so these kind of physical health ramifications are super important. I mentioned that kids nowadays are more overweight than they've ever been before. 1 in 5 kids in the U.S. are obese,
That's
and every
crazy.
time it's wild. Every time I bring up obesity, I note that obesity is an imperfect metric. Again, we're
Hmm.
talking about this at the macro. There can be kids that are obese that are healthy, but obesity on the whole, as a macro kind of indicator of health outcomes, leads to health challenges for the most part. Increased risk of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, certain cancers later on in life. So this is very problematic, and It probably has some to do with the diets and a lot of ultra processed foods, but it certainly has some to do with the aforementioned statistic around kids not moving as much as experts are recommending. So there's this physical health component, but the mental health piece is key too. I talked about the depression statistics, regular activity. We've talked about this on the podcast before through the lens of what it means for adults, but it helps kids as well manage stress and improve focus and regulate their emotions when their emotions are much more difficult to regulate because they don't have the skill sets to do so. So, the mental health piece is incredibly important, and there's downsides if they're not getting that, right? Kids who don't get enough physical activity, they're going to have higher rates of anxiety and depression. So it's just really critically important from the physical and the mental health that we're exhibiting good behaviors for our children around physical activity so that they exhibit them themselves.
Yeah, but I mean, what about like the academics as well? I mean, we
Yeah.
talked, what was it, a couple weeks ago, that study about how college students who worked out regularly did better in school. I mean, I remember distinctly as an elementary school student and a high school, or not high school, elementary school and middle school student, sitting in class, either waiting for gym class or recess and just not being able to focus one bit, having a really hard time concentrating on what was going on because I just had so much energy that I just needed to get it out. And then after coming back from being able to move my body, I was able to sit down, and not just able to, I wanted to sit down and learn, what was going on. I really do think that a lot of these ADHD problems, that we're seeing in kids nowadays. It's not to diminish ADHD. I do think it's a very real disorder, but I think a lot of it can be solved by just regular movement and letting these kids, move their bodies when they need to, and not just in these like tiny little regimented, like 20 or 30-minute blocks that we give them throughout the day. It just seems so counterintuitive when, if I were a teacher, I would want to spend the first half of the school day getting those kids as worn out as I possibly could, because then once all of the energy is out, then I can sit them down and teach them what it is they need to learn in school that day. But I mean, if it's crazy to me that we that you have these kids, they just want to move, but they can't, and we see now, especially now, because our home lives have become more and more sedentary. I think that finding those opportunities for kids to move becomes more important. Especially with we're seeing the whole the battles with the screen time and everything that goes on with that. Our world is just becoming more and more sedentary, and these kids are the ones that are feeling these effects the most, and it just seems so unfair to them.
Yeah, kind of to your ADD, ADHD point, like there's a benefit to moving more, and then there's a benefit to not doing what you would be doing otherwise. And what kids are doing otherwise these days is they're on screens. They're getting addicted to dopamine, which is going to make it really hard to focus and concentrate on anything when you're seeking that constant kind of little burst of dopamine all the time. So really important, not only for the benefits we talked about, but if your kids are doing physical activity, they're not doing things that can have these unintended consequences that exist when they're being more sedentary as well. So, how can we help our kids do this? How can parents lead by example? Sort of the next thing we want to discuss. And I think the easiest way is just to involve your kids in your activities. But what that requires is for you to take a moment to sort of inventory your own life and reflect on what it is that you're doing to ensure that you have healthy habits in place so that when you involve them in what you're doing, that what they're doing is physically active.
Yeah.
So it could be as simple as taking them to the store when you go to the store so they're getting up and moving around. If you go to the gym to work out or you're working out in the basement, let them fuck around on the, suspension trainer or whatever it is. Um, Getting them involved in what you're doing, taking them on a hike, going for a walk, going for a bike ride, going for a swim. These sorts of things are fun for kids, but simultaneously are getting them outside, getting them active, and make it more fun than like a chore or some sort of exercise that they have to do.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I do understand, from some parents' perspective, where like their workout time, like or them going to the gym, might be a part of it for them, and maybe part of the reason why they love it in their routine so much is because it is an opportunity to get away from the family responsibilities for a minute. It's their opportunity to just be with themselves and get those mental health benefits on their own. And so that's not to say that every time you go to the gym the kid's got to come with you,
Yeah.
but it's finding just some part of your routine that your kids can be a part of too. If you have a like something that I love to do is in the morning just going downstairs in my basement. I've got just a little kind of like home gym setup, and it'll just be do some pull-ups. I've got my adjustable dumbbells down there, it just exercise ball, and it's not really I don't really do too much of like my regimented training down there, but just in the morning it's how I like to get the blood flowing. And I will always I love it when Archer comes on down with me, and he doesn't even necessarily have to be like you said. He could just be messing around. We have like some rings down there, we've got some stuff, the like some balls and whatnot, and it's not like he has to be doing a specific workout with me, but even just being around it is just showing him how important it is for me. And that's going to, in my opinion, that's going to resonate with him as he starts to get older. And with that, I think it's really important to prioritize the playful aspect over the perfection. I think a lot of times we get caught up in I can't teach my kid to do this, I don't know how, or I don't want them to do that, what if they get hurt? And just instead of being so caught up in everything having to be perfect, just slowing down and just like focusing on the playful aspects of it can really take the pressure off of things. And also it's going to make it a heck of a lot more enjoyable for the kid, right?
You bet. Yeah. I mean, from like 3 to high school, no, maybe before that, from the time you can crawl to the time you go to high school, all you really need to be doing is playing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
get your kid in some sports. They can learn discipline. They can learn competition. They can learn how to overcome adversity. I think there's so much benefit in having a kid, giving a kid an opportunity if they're interested to participate in sport. But I mean, I remember growing up playing kick the can and all this stuff where it was an exercise. It was just something fun to do. And so encouraging those sorts of activities where the play requires some level of physical activity versus sitting and playing video games is just really critically important, I think. So it's not about like performance or getting strong or becoming an athlete. At this age, we're just really talking about playing. And playing is important for the physical health benefits. Playing is also how kids learn. Like play is critically important beyond just like the physical activity components that come with it. So figure out ways to give your kids more opportunity to play. Play with them. Get down on the floor. Crawl around. I've got an 11-month-old right now. We play hide and seek all the time, back and forth across the room. It's amazing. He loves to come find me behind the couch. So he's a little probably too young for me to be thinking about this, but I do like. And I think throughout his young life, it'll just be very much about for me figuring out ways to make physical activity fun.
Well, and how important is that for adults too? I mean, like, because
Yeah.
we're talking about this from the lens of being an active adult for the benefit of the kid, but think about all of the benefits that we get as adults by being able to play like kids. I
Yeah.
mean, life gets so serious. And how fun is it to just be able to forget about everything that's stressing you out and just play a game. And obviously, like your kid is significantly younger than mine, and so it's going to take some time for you to get here. But like, my son's at the age now where all he really wants to do is just go and throw the ball around in the yard, whether it's baseball, football, now, basketball just started. And to just now basically just like have a buddy to just go and play catch with is the coolest thing ever.
So cool.
But, I find myself still, even knowing that, I still, find myself being like, no, buddy, not right now. Like I've got adult stuff that I not even have to do, just adult stuff that I'm stressing about. And I have to consciously remind myself like this, first off, whatever you're working on, odds are it can wait. You can, and just like that young kid that struggled to focus in social studies class before he got a chance to run around. Imagine how much better it's going to be to come back to those things after you've had a chance to go play a little bit. So, I think the benefits are great for kids, but I mean it's huge for adults too.
So yeah, involve your kids in what you're doing. Figure out ways to build more movement into your daily life, and get them playing. I mean, it doesn't really need to be more complicated than that. When we're talking about the different types of activities that kids can and should be doing, it's everything from walking to running. And I don't mean going for a run. I mean throwing the frisbee around and chasing it or whatever it is. Biking, jumping rope, climbing trees, going to the playground.
Jumping rope is huge. That is such especially like somebody that has clients jump rope as a form of cardio regularly. To every time that I've got a new client and I have them start jumping rope in the gym, there's always this like kind of like shock that they've like forgotten, like, oh shit, like when was the last time I tried to do this? And then you make them do it for a minute straight and all of a sudden they're breaking a sweat. I mean it's such a good activity. But like you said, I mean, like climbing, any sort of like playground equipment, monkey bars are essentially just an opportunity to, for kids to do pull-ups, constantly. I mean, there are so many, good activities that you can do, and the benefits, like we talked about earlier, there's the muscle building potential, there is the aerobic potential, and then you have, and I think this is, just as important as all this stuff is helping those kids build strong, healthy bones and joints to set themselves up for success when they're getting older. I think it's such an important overlooked aspect of these play elements.
Yeah, and if you want to level all of it up and go the extra mile, get your kids in gymnastics young.
For sure.
That is a really good way to teach them all of these things. Body awareness. I think like a lot of super athletes did some form of tumbling or gymnastics in early life. It's a pretty common thread. So
yeah,
that's kind of a cool opportunity. So maybe you're listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, I'm a parent, I'm overwhelmed, I'm busy, I don't have any time to work out myself. Here, like I think we get that. So there are some probably challenges or maybe some excuses in the back of your mind that are coming up. One of which is time, right? Like our time as parents is often limited. You're juggling tons of different responsibilities. You're trying to get food on the table. You're going to work, trying to put the kids to bed, give them a bath, whatever it is. But this doesn't take a ton. Like it's all ultimately about what you prioritize. And I think the case that we're making here is that this should be as important as the bath. It should be as important as having food on the table. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a 60-minute activity. You could do a little 10-minute walk in the morning. It could be going out and playing in the backyard for 30 minutes after work. So figure out ways to kind of break it up, make it work and integrate it into the life that you have, because it is ultimately as important as all those things.
Yeah, we've talked about workout snacks on this podcast a couple of times, and this is just another thing. If you are short on time and you honestly cannot find an hour to, 2 or 3 times a week to work out, one, something that we would argue is, have a good hard look at your schedule and, really see if all of that time, is being used properly. But if that's the case, or if you're just not willing to dedicate that much time consecutively, 5 minutes, 10 minutes at a time, throughout the day, you can get a hell of a lot done. But another excuse, I guess, that a lot of people seem to come up with, and we see it a lot with, people who are thinking about getting back into shape. It's the self-consciousness about their fitness levels. I mean, how many times have you heard this? I need to get back in shape before I can, go see a trainer. I need to get back in shape before I can go to the gym. That's like, it's like saying, I need to go get my oil changed before I can bring the car into the mechanic. I mean,
Nice.
it's, it's just one of those things where obviously, yes, especially if you're somebody who used to be in shape. If you used to be an athlete and now you got kids and you got a career and a relationship and now you look in the mirror and you're like, holy crap, what happened? There's obviously, and fair enough, there's going to be some, self-consciousness that creeps in, but the fact of the matter is you're not going to make any changes until you get over that fact. So, and also understand that this is such a huge learning opportunity for your kids. If you can show them, how you are able to overcome adversity in your life, and what that does to show kids, that they can do hard things too. I mean, it's just like, it's massive.
Yeah, and it teaches them that it's the effort and the attitude that matter more than the fitness level itself. Like it's the habit of the activity that matters. You're an active person. That's what we're ultimately after here. So, baby steps work. Just show your kids that it's okay to start somewhere and to improve over time. Those are good lessons as well. Ultimately, it doesn't have to be about like the things you're not good at. If you're not good at going to the gym, again, like make it fun, make it interactive. Go play tag, play frisbee, go do hopscotch, whatever you need to do. Like get out, play, have fun. It maybe doesn't feel like traditional exercise, but again, we're just talking about how we get our kids to be more physically active, and there's tons of opportunities to do that outside of maybe something that makes you feel uncomfortable because you feel like you're not good at it.
Go go play a sport, any sport, soccer, capture the flag football, whatever it is. Go, if you are lucky enough to have a 7 to, I don't know, like 12-year-old child, go play with them and their friends the next time that they get together and are playing sports. Holy shit, you're going to be in for the workout of your life, because those kids do not stop. They don't get tired. They love to play. They just keep going. I mean, like, if you really are, struggling to find that thing that is, that is the motivating factor that's going to get you moving again. Play is the greatest thing. I love, for cardio, I'm getting, I obviously, like, I'm getting more into running now, but cardio for me was always just some sort of game, whether it be pickleball or jujitsu or, playing basketball. It's always just about like finding that activity that can distract me from the fact that I'm doing cardio. And so, that doesn't, for everybody, that's going to be different, but like that, there is something out there that exists for you. I promise.
Yeah, so your example is going to influence their long-term health. I noted before, kids with active parents are 2 to 3 times more likely to be active if their parents are also active. So what you're teaching them, what you're showing them, is that activity is just what they do. It becomes an internalized habit that they don't have to think about, right? And I think
Yeah, it's
that
just what they do.
it's just what they do, and it can just be what we do too. And giving them that habit is going to reap significant benefits down the road. It's also going to teach them resilience, perseverance, how to overcome adversity. Like there'll come a point in time where some of this physical activity is challenging, right? Like maybe they're not super good at soccer. Maybe they're having a hard time getting the basketball to the hoop. But doing that and showing them that, you can overcome some of these challenges is a good example to them, but also guiding them and giving them the ability to understand that you can improve and grow teaches them these resilience, perseverance, overcoming adversity lessons that are just so critically important. I think they're really inherent in like organized sport as well, which is why I'm such a big fan of that. But it's good to lose sometimes and be a parent that's there to guide the child through what it means to lose or to fail. And physical activity offers opportunities to do that and grow from it. So I think that's a huge benefit as well.
Yeah, and I think about, you've talked about the mental benefits of it too, and just normalizing, that self-care that being physically active brings. It's an opportunity for you to model that self-care and teach your kids that taking care of your body is essential. It's not selfish. It's something that you have to do. You're filling your cup so that you can go and fill everybody else's. Kids that grow up with this mindset, odds are they're going to be healthier adults. I mean, not just physically, mentally too.
Yeah. So just to kind of wrap here, I mean, the goal, as we've mentioned time and time again, as it relates to everything in health and wellness, the goal is not perfection, but just consistency. So we're just talking, if you're starting at zero, small, regular activities over time are going to make a massive, massive input. It's the sort of the 1% every day sort of a rule. So get out there. Be a good role model for your kids as it relates to physical activity. Set a good example. Do things with them. Those active choices that you make and show them will positively impact your children, not only now, but in the future as well.
Yeah, and just find that one thing that you can start doing this week. Whether that is the family walk after dinner, and we've talked about the benefits of moving after a meal, anyways. But just a walk around the block, or just 10 minutes of play, going outside and throwing the ball around with your kid. Find what that looks like, for you and your family. I'm lucky, I live up here in Door County where, we're surrounded by, a bunch of awesome, hiking trails and biking opportunities. And there's, just look around at your environment and find the thing that you can integrate this week. And it doesn't need to be this total overhaul of your schedule. Just find 10 minutes that you can dedicate to being active with your kids, and make it a point to do that every single week, and then figure out how you can grow upon that, from there.
I love it.
For sure, man. We nailed that. That's pretty dang good.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's transition to the question and answer portion. I see that you got one here, Dylan. Why don't you ask it? I love this question. I think it's great.
Yeah, so this person said that they really hate single arm dumbbell rows. So much so that like on the day that it's programmed in, they just dread it. They don't even want to go work out that day. So I guess the question maybe more broadly is like, I really hate insert specific exercise here. How can I overcome that dread every time it's programmed into my workout?
Yeah. It's a great question, because in every workout program, there's just the exercise that you hate. And so my first question is why? What's the root cause? Is it causing you pain? Is it something that is physically hurting you, and that's why you don't like it, or is it just hard? And so that's the first, if we're looking at the flow chart, and if it's causing you pain, then we need to make adjustments. We need to, look at the form, look at the setup, and figure out, what's going on there. And maybe for whatever reason, that exercise is just not a good exercise for you. That's okay. Not all exercises are meant for everybody, and that's fine. And when we look at an exercise like a single arm dumbbell row, fortunately there are a dozen other exercises that we could substitute for it that hits the same muscle group. But if it's not causing you pain and you just don't like it, I think that this is a really important lesson in just embracing the suck. The exercises that we dislike the most tend to be the exercises that we need the most, because it is highlighting a deficiency. It's working on a weak muscle group or something that if it wasn't written down in our program, we would never, ever do it. So, I think that there is an aspect of embracing that suck as long as it's not causing pain. Now, if it really is to this point of existential dread, it is okay to find a substitute exercise. But if it's a single arm dumbbell row, I'm not subbing it for bicep curls or chest press. It's going to be another row variation. It's going to be something else that works that same muscle group, but just in a way that is a little bit more favorable for me. So I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, but I love that question because there is so much that goes into it, and really sometimes it is just as simple as suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah, I think you absolutely nailed it. I would embrace the opportunity to overcome the adversity, to embrace the suck to the point where you actually don't show up at the gym one day because you hate it that much. And if that occurs, then sub that shit out because it's much more important that you're going to the gym than it is you're doing any specific exercise. So, yeah, I'm totally with you. Well said.
Thanks, man. All right, let's bring it home with the most popular segment of the show. It is the I Lift a Sad Song of the Week, brought to you by thebasictrainer.com and the I Lift a Sad Songs tank top, which I get so many compliments on it. Now, Dylan, it's your sad song this week. You're either on the phone or you are listening to a sad song.
Yeah.
Which is it?
I'm making sure this is the one I want. It's been a little while since I've listened to it. This is a deeper cut kind of emo band from 2007. I just need him to start singing here. Hold, please. Yeah, it's Into Your Arms by The Maine.
Oh my God, The Maine. All right. It was not a phase, Mom. It's man. You said, what's the song? Into Your Arms.
Into Your Arms. Yeah.
I honestly, I'm sure I've heard it.
Heard it. It's been a while. I had to go deep for this one, but it belongs.
Okay. I'm going to check it out.
So,
all right. This has been great. Another great episode, Dylan. So much fun. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Fuck yeah, man.